All right, so lesson 41, the bread of life, John 6. And we begin at verse 22. Find verse 22 there in your Bibles. If you look right before it, you remember our last lesson we left off. Jesus had walked on the water. He had gone into the mountain to commune with his Father. And the disciples left on a ship. The multitudes were heading back to their homes. And now a storm arose on the sea. Jesus walked on the water. Peter walked on the water. Jesus taught them. And then the end of verse 21, immediately the ship was at the land where they went. And that leads us to verse 22. So let's pick it up there. The day following, when the people which stood on the other side of the sea saw that there was none other boat there, save that one whereinto his disciples were entered, and that Jesus went not with his disciples into the boat, but that his disciples were gone away alone, howbeit there came other boats from Tiberias nigh unto the place where they did eat bread. After that the Lord had given thanks. When the people therefore saw that Jesus was not there, neither his disciples, they also took shipping and came to Capernaum, seeking for Jesus. So these people, very astute, they look around. Oh, there's a ship that the disciples were in, but none of them are here. We didn't see Jesus, so they put two and two together and conclude, hey, I know where we need to head. We need to go find Jesus, I bet. Well, let's go look in Capernaum. And they went there seeking for Jesus. Verse 25. And when they had found him on the other side of the sea, they said unto him, Rabbi, when camest thou hither? Jesus answered them and said, Verily, verily, I say unto you, ye seek me not because ye saw the miracles, but because ye did eat of the loaves and were filled. Labor not for the meat which perisheth, but for that meat which endureth unto everlasting life, which the Son of Man shall give unto you. For him hath God the Father sealed. Then said they unto him, What shall we do that we might work the works of God? Jesus answered and said unto them, This is the work of God, that ye believe on him whom he hath sent. They said therefore unto him, What sign showest thou then, that we may see and believe thee? What dost thou work? Our fathers did eat manna in the desert, as it is written, He gave them bread from heaven to eat. Then Jesus said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, Moses gave you not that bread from heaven, but my Father giveth you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is he which cometh down from heaven, and giveth life unto the world. Then said they unto him, Lord, evermore give us this bread. And Jesus said unto them, I am the bread of life. He that cometh to me shall never hunger. He that believeth on me shall never thirst. But I say unto you, that ye also have seen me, and believe not. All that the Father giveth me shall come to me, and him that cometh to me I will in no wise cast out. For I came down from heaven not to do my own will, but the will of him that sent me. And this is the Father's will which has sent me, that of all which he hath given me I should lose nothing, but should raise it up again at the last day. And this is the will of him that sent me, that every one that seeth the Son, and believeth on him, may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. Then the Jews murmured at him, because he said, I am the bread which came down from heaven. And they said, Is not this Jesus, the son of Joseph, whose father and mother we know? How is it that he saith, I came down from heaven? I'm going to stop there. Interesting narrative, then we'll pick it up from there. Okay. So here come this multitude of people, right? They were over on the other side of the sea. Jesus did a miracle there for them. What miracle did he do? Right in front of them when they were out there in our last lesson. Garrett? 5 loaves, 2 fishes, feeding at least 5,000 men, and we said anywhere from 10 to 20,000 people he could have fed. And what don't they call that already the next day? What do they fail to call that, do we see here? Jesse? What do they want from Jesus to prove he's from heaven? What kind of sign? What are they looking for, guys? Gales? What kind of sign do they ask for, Joe? Remember? What kind of sign did they ask for? Look back. Let's see here. Where is that? Well, verse 30. What are they looking for? What kind of sign? Megan? Well, where were they yesterday then? If they want to see something, didn't they see the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes feed 10 to 20,000 people and have 12 baskets enough? Wasn't that enough? What more do you need? We can see the foolishness of these stone-cold hearts of unbelievers. That's why we've learned in all of our lessons, and I've tried to emphasize to you guys, what did Jesus say? I'm not going to do these things because you already have what? What do the people already have that should cause them to believe? Faith? They have the prophets and the... On your worksheet a while ago, they called it Moses. Jesus refers to it. You had Moses and the prophets, but Moses wrote what? What did Moses write down? The law. You have the law and you have the prophets, and that is enough. And Jesus said back then, if I would do many miracles, you still wouldn't believe. And now we see that, right? Do you see that today? He just fed 5,000 plus people with 5 loaves, 2 fishes, and 12 baskets left over. And the next day they're already asking for more miracles and more wonders. Okay? No matter what he does, they would never believe. And Jesus knows that. Okay? And so, we see that there. Okay? They begin to say, well, Moses, he got bread, that manna from heaven. What does it mean that what are these people really looking for? Same thing that we look for in our lives sinfully, although we don't as blatantly ask for it here. Faith? Maybe not excuses, but what are they looking for? Jesse? And if he makes an earthly kingdom, and he makes, that's exactly right, make an earthly kingdom. So if he makes an earthly kingdom, and Jesus calls down manna from heaven every day, why would the people want that? Why would the people want that? Jesse? Yeah, it makes life, they want an easy life. Well, if Jesus comes here, he'll just give us manna from heaven. All right, now I don't need to go out and earn wages to be able to buy food. I can just sit back all day and do nothing. And, well, here comes the manna from heaven. All right, let's go out, gather it up, children, and we can eat. And I don't have to do anything. And if I'm sick, I just go to Jesus and he heals me. Hey, this is perfect. Maybe he can build houses for us instantaneously, you're probably thinking. Oh, and when that riverbed dries up during the drought, he'll just snap his fingers and along will come some water rushing down. Oh, this will be nice. That's what they're looking for. That's why they're asking here and saying, well, God sent manna. If you're God, why don't you do that? How quickly they forgot what Jesus had done the day before. Okay? Jesus teaches them and then tells them, God did send you down bread from heaven today. I am the bread that came down from heaven, Jesus says. Do they believe him? It's not what they're looking for. They're looking for an earthly kingdom. So they won't believe. They don't care about that. Yeah, be fed spiritually. I don't want to be fed spiritually. I want my belly filled. That's what I want. Jesus teaches us here, if we believe in Christ, we believe in Him, our true faith is in Him, our bellies may hurt some days when we don't have food. There may come a day where we go a week without food. But every morning when you wake up, there may be no food in your refrigerator. The cupboard is bare. But sitting on your bedstand next to you is something that can fill you even more. A Bible. Wake up in the morning and let God fill that in your hearts and your minds, and then you'll be truly fed and watered. God will care for His people. If it's His will that we die of starvation, then that's His will. God promises, though, too, to keep care for His people. Okay? And then that beautiful verse that we can use to show, again, that there's election and reprobation, that God has His people. It's not something that's done in my heart. It's not something where I say, well, I guess I'll open my heart up and let Jesus come in. No, that's not the case here. Okay? Instead, Jesus gives us here, none can come to me except the Father which has sent me draw him, and I will raise him up at the last day. Okay? So, and then verse 39, this is my Father's will, that all which He hath given me I should lose nothing. There's comfort there too. Yesterday I fell into sin. Oh boy, what am I going to do? I'm afraid. But no, I don't need to be afraid. God promises that sin that I did yesterday, He'll forgive me. He won't keep me out of heaven just because of that sin. Because I'm His child. So anyways, Jesus teaches that I am the bread of life. And of course, we see the retort of the people there. They think it's a bunch of foolishness. Okay? Well, don't we know? What does He mean He came down from heaven? He came out of the womb of His mother, Mary. We can walk down the street and talk to Joseph and Mary here and ask her, Mother, or Mary, mother of Jesus, where did your son come from? Did he come from heaven? Did an animal bring him down from the heavens? Did he come down on a cloud? Or did he come out of your womb? And of course she's going to say, well, he came from my womb. And she could tell him again the beautiful story of the angels visiting her, and that it had been a virgin birth, but it still wouldn't matter. It's just like the feeding of the 5,000. They won't believe. Their hearts are hard. They don't love the Lord. Okay? So, they say that. So let's take a look at verse 43. That's where we left off there. They're murmuring. They don't think Jesus is making any sense here. So please take a look at verse 43. Jesus therefore answered and said unto them, Murmur not among yourselves. No man can come unto me except the Father which has sent me draw him, and I will raise him up at the last day. It is written in the prophets, and they shall be all taught of God. Every man therefore that hath heard and hath learned of the Father cometh unto me. We're being instructed in here in many of the forms of tulip that we learn about, right? Hey, election. Verse 46 here, not that any man has seen the Father, save he which is of God he has seen the Father. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me hath everlasting life. I am that bread of life. Your fathers did eat man in the wilderness, and they're dead. This is the bread which cometh down from heaven, that a man may eat thereof, and not die. Again, Jesus is making spiritual pictures there. I am the living bread which came down from heaven. If any man eat of this bread, he shall live forever. And the bread that I will give is my flesh, and I will give for the life of the world. That doesn't mean we need to eat the flesh of Jesus, like the Catholics are going to believe that that wafer is turning into the flesh of Jesus. I'm not eating at the communion table the flesh. Symbolism, it's a picture of it. And we see again, what is the reaction of these people standing here? The Jews therefore strove among themselves, saying, how can this man give us his flesh to eat? They're thinking literally again. They aren't seeing the visual pictures that Jesus is making. Instead, they're literally thinking, well, to do I have to come and gnaw off his flesh? You can imagine them elbowing each other, snickering at each other because they're full of unbelief. They're mocking him. Jesus is teaching them, and he will leave them. He's not going to cast his pearls before swine, as we would say. He's taught them, he's instructed them, he's given them the wisdom that they need to, and instead they just mock him and make fun of him. You can imagine them saying, well, what do I got to do? Go over there and take a bite out of them? Sometimes we sinfully do that too. When some authority figure is trying to teach and instruct us, we make light of their words and mock them. We shouldn't do that. Continuing on in verse 53, then Jesus said unto them, verily, verily, I say unto you, except ye eat of the flesh of the Son of Man, and drink his blood, ye have no life in you. In reading class, we talk about foreshadowing, right? When an author talks and gives you a clue about something's coming later on. What is Jesus foreshadowing here? When he talks about the eating my flesh and drinking my blood. What is he foreshadowing? What is he beginning to teach about? What seeds is he beginning to plant in the disciples' mind? When else does he talk about that? Eating my flesh and drinking my blood. Yes. Right before Jesus is going to die on the cross, we'll have the Lord's Supper. And there again, Jesus will talk about eating my flesh and drinking my blood. That the wine is a picture of that. Continuing on, verse 55. For my flesh is meat indeed, and my blood is drink indeed. He that eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood dwelleth in me, and I in him. As the living Father has sent me, and I live by the Father, so he that eateth me, even he shall live by me. This is the bread which came down from heaven, not as your fathers did eat manna, and are dead. He that eateth of this bread shall live forever. These things said he in the synagogue, as he taught in Capernaum. Many therefore of his disciples, when they heard this, said, this is a hard saying. Who can hear it? In other words, this is difficult to understand. When Jesus knew in himself that the disciples murmured at it, Jesus knows the mind of every man there, and you and me right here, right now. He saith unto them, does this offend you? What and if ye shall see the Son of Man ascend up where he was before? It is the Spirit that quickeneth. The flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life. But there are some of you that believe not. For Jesus knew from the beginning who they were that believed not, and who should betray him. He said, therefore said I unto you, that no man can come unto me, except it were given unto him of my Father. So Jesus begins to reveal here. Disciples, I am not talking about anything earthly. I'm talking about the Spirit. Okay, the Spirit quickens. Will ye believe if you see the Son of Man ascend up into heaven? Again, Jesus foreshadowing of what will happen to him after his death. He'll be raised up, and then he will walk here on this earth for 40 more days. And then he will ascend up into heaven. Will you believe then? It's the Spirit that works in you. Again, Jesus foreshadowing, the Spirit will be poured out. Okay? But even when that Spirit's poured out, it's still not the work of man. It's the work of Jesus' Father, who Jesus' Father hath called and given unto him. Verse 66 here till the end. From that time many of the disciples went back and walked no more with him. Not the 12, but the hundreds and thousands who had been following Jesus. Many of them left after this. This isn't what they were looking for. They saw the day before the 5,000 fed. And they were excited about that. They thought, finally, the day has arrived. He'll throw Herod off, himself king, and we will celebrate it, and our lives will be easy. And that wasn't the case. Then said Jesus unto the 12, will ye also go away? The most beautiful, beautiful answer given by Peter here. Then Simon Peter answered him, Lord, to who shall we go? Thou hast the words of eternal life. And we believe and art sure that thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. Can we say that? Is that what we believe? Prayerfully we say yes. Jesus answered them, have not I chosen you 12, and one of you is a devil? He spake of Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon, for he it was that should betray him, being one of the 12. Beginning to foreshadow, again here Jesus is planting seeds. He knows the mind of all of his people. He knows the mind of all of his disciples. Sadly, Many of the disciples on this day leave. Not the 12, but the other followers. They didn't get what they were looking for, an earthly kingdom, an easy kingdom. Wasn't that what Jesus came to establish? It was Jesus' job to come to this earth to save his people from their sins. And while here, teach and instruct them about that heavenly kingdom that is eternal and everlasting. They could have manna from heaven each and every day, but they would still die. And when they died, hell awaits them. But because we believe, because God works in our hearts and we know him and love him, we can look forward to our earthly death, because then it will bring us to a place of eternal glory that Jesus is teaching about here. So look forward to that day. Do not fear your earthly death. Do not be afraid of it, because what is laid up for you then is a crown of righteousness in heaven. Sadly, many people didn't see that here. So Jesus will leave. He'll start ending his ministry here in Capernaum soon and begin heading back towards Jerusalem.